All right. Thank you, everyone, for showing up for today's transmission. I am deeply grateful that you are present here in this eclipse window, in this eclipse corridor. We're in a spike point of an energetic opportunity that is really, for those of us that are awake and aware, we're able to use whatever's coming up for us to evolve, to look at deeper pieces in the energetic closet that we've maybe been working lifetimes to be ready to see, to be ready to feel, to be ready to presence. And so the first step today, the guides are showing me, is to invite you, your body, and your teams to dial up even more. We know you have that strong river of courage and of strength within you. But today, we're just inviting you to dial it up a little bit more, to amplify. We're going to model it, the courage, the strength within you to see deeper into the energetic closet. And really, it's through this session today, but then also throughout this eclipse window, this eclipse corridor. And really, it's more than just the fact that we're between lunar eclipse and solar eclipse right now, which are almost literally right in the middle of that. There's also an energetic corridor that's lasting really through the end of October. And so we have this really, from the soul's perspective, that is fully awake, fully sees everything at a 360 view, a really juicy time to evolve. It's like everything you've trained for, everything you've been asking for on some level. And then there's this other side of things where we can recognize that this is a very intense time and can be a very emotionally challenging time, especially due to recent events in the US, for those of us in the US, and maybe in other areas of the world, depending on where you are and what's happening. And maybe it's you witnessing things in the other area of the world that are triggering you in some way or have you in a bit of a discombobulation, a disorientation. So the first piece that we want to presence is there's a lot of empathic stuff that you may be feeling, your body may be feeling from the collective, even if you're not in the United States, based on the events last Wednesday with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And so we recognize that some of you may not agree with things that he said, some of you may, and we encourage you to go beyond that aspect of the script and the story and to recognize that it represents so much more than what may be the on the surface, right? Like what we're able to connect to information wise on the surface. This points to a really deep, profound, energetic, like a recurring theme throughout time. And that's why it is impacting so many in such a profound way. And again, you may not even know who that is, especially if you don't live in the US. You may not have been triggered by any of it, but we would almost guarantee, and the guides are scanning the fields and they're saying, yep, that every single one of you to some degree is being empathically impacted. You're feeling the collective energetically. And that has an effect on your fields. It has an effect on your psyche. It has an effect on your vibrational set point to some degree. It's like it influences it. And so we're going to bring in a process first to help with that empathic layer and layers, they're saying. And then we're also going to invite, before we dive into that, I always like to hit the ground running. That's me. I'm like, let's go. Let's evolve, whatever this represents, right? The guides want me to just pause for a moment and talk a little bit about, remind you. It's like remind you, you are an infinite being of light. You've lived thousands of lifetimes on and off planet. You as a soul. Your body, Deva, has probably lived hundreds, maybe thousands of lifetimes as a nature spirit of Earth up to this point in time. It will go on to live many, many lives, even galactically. Eventually, it'll transition to the galactic because Gaia is in the midst of the galactic embrace right now. And so are the nature spirits. And so take a moment to ponder, zoom out, if you will. I've lived many, 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 many incarnations. I may not be conscious of what I did in every single one of those moments, in every single one of those incarnations, but I recognize that I've been evolving along the way. I've had experiences. And I recognize that as an infinite soul connected to an infinite source, and the body Deva has done this as well, I've sat in council prior to incarnations with guides and advisors and scripted what I was calling forth for myself with regard to my evolution. I hired people, I contracted with other souls to play certain roles for me in this incarnation and previous incarnations. And some of that on the surface, 3D, rolling around on the ground, so to speak, in the incarnation looks really messy and it creates trauma. And if we don't fully heal that trauma, it repeats, it recycles. And what we're in the midst of right now is a repeat of a collective trauma for humanity and simultaneously for each individual to the degree that it links with you. Like on some level, we've all had an incarnation where something similar occurred. And it's this idea of in duality, there are two sides to the coin. So we've played both sides of that coin. So whether in this incarnation we align with one side or another, or we're just simply an observer, that isn't the significant part. In other words, the significant part isn't which side of the aisle are you on. Because we've all had thousands of incarnations where we've done both. So the right and wrong here isn't what we're inviting you to connect to. Who's right, who's wrong? Is what he stood for really right or wrong? Because depending on your perspective and information you have access to, you're all going to have your own way of perceiving. And we're not here to change that. What we're here to invite you into is the recognition that this has, on the highest levels prior to this incarnation, been an aspect of a potential script for a potential timeline, and it did play out. And there were contracts and agreements and rehearsals and all kinds of things. And on some level, you knew, and the wise beings of love and light that supported you in orchestrating however you show up for this particular moment in time, knew that it was going to support you in some way in your evolution. And can we use it for that? Can we use it to look deeper into the energetic closet? And yes, there may be or may not be grief or anger around what has occurred in the present, but is there also grief and anger that is ancient? And then there's the layer that it's empathic as well, humanities, collective. And it's not just people in the US that have been affected by this, by the way, it's worldwide. But again, depending on what your life is like. Again, not right, wrong, good, or bad. You may or may not have connected to this particular individual and his particular role and mission. And so just for a moment, we're inviting each of you to zoom out and to recognize this is a play out in the polarity that is igniting, triggering collective trauma that is ancient, including my own to some degree. If I haven't fully healed every single nugget of trauma from every single incarnation that has a similar play out, a similar scenario. And the reason we're not trying to change your point of view about any of it is your point of view is needed for you to look deep in the energetic closet and pull out the piece you need to reference from 10 lifetimes ago, 20 lifetimes ago, 50 lifetimes ago, off planet, whatever it represents for you. So this isn't just any free transmission that we're offering today. This is a divine decree. I mean, a divine appointment. I was literally shown that. This is a divine, sacred appointment to use it to evolve and still have the feelings we have, the points of view we have, the whatever it is. We're not dismissing any of that. We're just inviting you to zoom out from it for a moment and recognize, yes, that may be your current perception, point of view world. And what else is true? You're an infinite being. You lived all these incarnations, and there's more to the story here that isn't even about this story. It's about the pattern. It's about the play out. It's about what we're going to use the word archetypes are pointing to. And so the first layer, we're going to invite you to address with us energetically, and it's really you addressing it for you. We're going to guide you through a process, is the collective empathic that you may be feeling. And this could be current collective empathic. It could be you're feeling previous incarnation or future incarnation where something similar plays out or did play out. And there's so much overlap right now with the thin veils. You can feel other lifetimes like it's now. I mean, the veils are so thin, and they're going to continue to thin through the end of October. And really, I feel beyond that. As we ascend, basically the veils get thinner. So we invite you to orient in your columns of light and take a moment and just take a deep breath in, inviting your higher self to bring all of your energy off of everyone and everything, out of the past, out of the future, into the now. Then just take a moment to imagine, intend, pretend, if you want to use that word. It's not really pretend, but that can get you there. Pretend that you are this column of light, this ray of light emanating from source. And you're gathering all of your light back to you, all your awareness, your focus into that vertical line of light. Body teams, same. Get in your lanes, everyone in their lanes, and just use the inhale to invite, imagine, pretend, pulling your energy back to you. Getting present. And then inviting you, your body, your teams to ground more. And you as a soul can invite your higher self to ground more on the front of the body spine, firmly attached, lean in to the seat of the saddle that is the front of the spine of the body deva. Your line of light runs along the front of the body spine, and ideally You are firmly attached all the way along. You are fully present in your line of light. You are running your energy through your line of light, down from the heart of source, back up to the heart of source, and it creates this beautiful, amazing, divine cosmic loop of light. That is you. It's an emanation of your essence, your divine spark that originates in the heart of source. Your body and your teens have that same configuration, but the body Deva's divine column of light runs through the spinal cord, comes down, loops back up to the heart of source. I'm just helping with the orientation, because whenever we want to do an energetic shift, we want to get first oriented and grounded in truth so that we don't get destabilized, so we don't get disoriented, so we don't lose our footing, so that it can be gentle, graceful, empowering. And it's more efficient. It's like they're showing the idea of when you're in the gym and you're lifting weights, you want to make sure you have the right form so you don't create an injury. It's kind of that. You want to make sure you're in the correct stance, the correct form to begin energetic work, especially of this type. And so just inviting you to orient, inviting you to invite your higher self to orient you appropriately for this work. And we did invoke, prior to coming live, your future selves as ascended masters to help you with this session today. Body their future selves, Body Deva Nature Spirit's future selves in fully enlightened states, so that they can model, they can share information, help guide, help be part of your crew for this vibrational transformation opportunity. And all of this is free will based. So if anything that we invite you into doesn't resonate for you, you don't have to choose it. You don't have to say yes to it. It's all up to you. And we can't do it for you. Well, we could try, but that would be messy. We would never try to do it for you because that would be disempowering. We invite you to do it for yourself, and then we model, show you how, share information, guide. All right, here we go. We invite your higher self and your body, Deva, at the level of its higher self to scan your fields, team same, for any empathic disempowerment, grief, anger, rage, frustration, sadness, regret, guilt, which is interesting. I can see the layers to that. But we're just going to include that, even if it doesn't make sense to the mind right now. That you're empathically feeling that's actually not yours. It's from a group field, i.e., either this collective, current time, or some other group or collective in the time spiral continuum that you're empathically feeling, because what's happened is with this cycle and this pinpoint, this ignition point that just occurred this week, it links in with all those other moments in time where something similar occurred. I'm being shown the idea of kings being like things being overturned, killed. I'm seeing all kinds of things. Even just on a Viking ship, like, or a pirate ship where there's like mutiny and and somebody gets killed, and now there's a whole different whatever. And then maybe after the fact, I'm not saying this is true in this case, I'm gonna talk a lot, because what I'm doing is I'm connecting to different stories in this time spiral continuing to help you get deeper into that energetic closet. It's like this idea of there's this mutiny on the ship, and then after we kill the captain and install a new one, we find out that what we thought was true was a lie, and we killed him for no reason. And then that's where the guilt comes in. It's like, oh, but we really thought he was da da da, and he really wasn't. So then there's this guilt and this sense of feeling betrayed by whoever lied to us. So it's like this, again, that's the pattern, the collective trauma, where what we thought was true wasn't true. We did this thing, and then we found out, and then there's all kinds of stuff that creates the wound, the trauma. So why do we script this stuff for ourselves? To get certain lessons. So in that case, it might be we wanted greater discernment. We wanted to be able to trust our own knowing in a greater way and not trust what somebody else was telling us. We wanted to be able to see more clearly, to have more clarity for ourselves, maybe to have the courage to investigate something in a deeper way, or the trust in our own ability to discern, like the belief in self. Maybe some part of us knew that didn't feel right, but we did it anyway. We went along with it. So there's all these layers I'm seeing, and it can go on and on and on. But we're just inviting you, your higher self, and teams to scan for all of that that's collective. And then you can kind of earmark what's yours and set it on the shelf for now. And return all the empathic emotions, projections, installed memories that aren't yours. They may be inherited in some way or literally programmed, implanted. Returning all of that back to its right and perfect place, and or dissolving, canceling it, releasing it. Send information, return responsibility for shifting it for anybody else, the stuff that's not yours. They can handle it. Humanity can handle it. The less evolved than you might not be as strong, might not be as courageous yet, but that's what they need it for. It's their fuel. So they get the strength, so they get the courage, so they get the clarity, so they get the fill in the blank. So as you return it, you can invite your higher self, bodies, higher self, and teams to share all the energetic information you have with them, where they have the capacity to receive it, and to activate and amplify greater compassion for everyone involved, including yourself. You might have been part of that group. You might have been just outside of that group witnessing. You might have been a guide for somebody in that group. So you weren't even in physical form, but you witnessed it happen. There could be so many reasons. This, again, could be off planet, where you witnessed it happen in another world. But then you got attached, and then you're empathically impacted by that collective. Because sometimes witnessing something can traumatize us, even if we're not directly involved. So we want to return all that empathic, all those challenges, issues, karma related, anywhere we blamed anyone involved or trying to hold them like accountable for being the perpetrator, being the victimizer. Return all responsibility back to them. Send appropriate energetic information, give all their empathic stuff back to them, send appropriate energetic information, even current times. And are you willing? This doesn't mean you have to try to do it at this level. It means we're asking you, are you willing to forgive and release it all? Are you willing to release the meaning that you gave any of it at any moment in time, so that your higher self can support you in an appropriate dimension far beyond the mind to reinterpret your relationship with all of it to a higher octave, so that you can release, return, and then retrieve all of your attachment, your judgment, your creative life force, your energy you were using to try to shift it, change it. Retrieve all your creative energy, your life force, your attachment off of the external events, circumstances in any moment in time, off of others, off of the perceived victimizers or groups that were oppressing, controlling, suppressing, abusing power. Retrieve all your attachment off of them, because then you're going to try to process their karma. If you're attached to them being different, you're wanting them to be different, you're angry at them, you're judging them, you're going to start to unconsciously, energetically download their karma to try to process it for them, which is why your life may not show up in a way that honors you. So keep retrieving all of your attachment, all of your judgment. Invite your higher self to do it. Higher self, will you retrieve all my attachment, all my judgment from any moment in time, even off planet, where I got attached to someone else being in integrity with their power, where I got attached to others not hurting and harming another. Or I got attached to others being more in integrity, more evolved, more kind, more empowered, not being a victim. Maybe you're attached to the victims, wanting them to be more empowered, wanting them to not be victimized. Get all your attachment, all your creative energy back on you. Clean it, recalibrate it, re-embed it. Clean all the empathic sensations off from all moments in time. Setting up appropriate healing chambers and debriefs at the end of those incarnations to activate all vibrations of spiritual lessons that it represented for you. And anywhere this is, recent events impacting you directly in a profound way, where you maybe are grieving or are angry or are in a triggered state of some kind, inviting you, your body, your teams to reference where that's actually coming from. And it might be multiple places in the time spiral continuum where this particular archetypal polarity play out repeated itself. And I'm being shown a lot of sacred geometry. It's almost like the sacred geometry of this particular energetic template of learning and experience in separation. And as you reference all those moments in time far beyond the mind, body, team, same. We're inviting you at the level of your higher selves, bodies, higher selves, and teams to work with the energetic fields and the guides to set up appropriate debriefs at the end of those incarnations, where you're going to do a very slow and thorough end of life review with guides and advisors, beings of love and light, you from the future in fully enlightened states, body, team, same. Body, David, do your debriefs as well. In all those moments. And for Body David, there might be some incarnations coming up where it was in animal form and there was a similar play out. Which sounds weird, but I mean, think about in animal form, there are predators. And so this idea of victim, victimizer is not far off from the predator and the prey. So we're just going to include those moments to be identified for Body Deva. And you as a soul may have been riding in the body for those moments in animal form, getting used to being in the earth plane terrain. And just inviting the complete, thorough, it's like reviewing of everything we were meant to learn, activating all vibrations of the spiritual lessons, doing the appropriate vibrational transformation, and releasing the trauma. And for some of you, this may go, I'm seeing Atlantis, I'm seeing Lemuria, I'm seeing like the fall of Rome, the guides are saying. Like it's played out in so many ways. I'm even being shown now an ant community or a beehive that gets demolished. It's this idea of this repeating, repetitive cycle. So activating the vibrations of the spiritual lessons, releasing the trauma. Are you willing to forgive and release it all? Will you allow your higher self to help you do that? Are you willing to release the meaning you had given any of those moments so that your relationship with it can be reinterpreted to a higher octave, where you can see it through a higher dimensional lens? You can relate to it through the eyes of your higher self instead of the one who is wounded or victim or victimizer or whatever it is. Letting go of all self-hatred, self-loathing, activating, amplifying greater compassion for self and others, completely forgiving and releasing self and others to the degree that you choose. Returning, retrieving fragments, power, responsibility, and fabric appropriately. Full, complete, thorough debrief. We tie up all the loose ends in those debriefs. We complete the forgiveness, the quantum forgiveness. We complete the ability, it's the evolutionary process, so that we have the ability to see it from the higher perspective. where we're not holding anyone hostage, including ourselves. So there's no karma that has to continue to recycle, allowing that to complete, returning any karma you were trying to process for another within that exchange, returning any of their challenges, their issues back to them, returning all responsibility back to them, sending information, including ancestral, including tribal. Retrieving all your gifts, your wisdom, your mastery, your fabric back to you, attachment back to you, cleaning, recalibrating, re-embedding it on you for you. Body, team, same. A couple of times this week in working with clients one-on-one, I was seeing how this linked with, and I'm not comparing, I don't want this to be misinterpreted. I'm not comparing the one who was recently assassinated here in the US to Jesus, but the pattern was similar. And these particular individuals, that was the main nugget for them, was a lifetime they actually were a follower of Jesus, and Jesus was killed by those who didn't agree with his point of view. And so that's really the pattern, is being able to have a voice and be in the power of your perspective, your voice, whatever it is, without being harmed. So that brings me to the next piece. So we're going to invite a balancing and stabilizing of all the energetic fields, updating all grids, all reference points, all ways in which you perceive and are perceived. Shake out, reboot. You just did a lot of healing, very deep healing. Just going to hold space for a moment for that integration, complete full integration at the end of every single one of those debriefs, rippling and reflecting it appropriately to you in the present moment. Getting current with who you've become now. Notice if you feel different, the guides are saying. They're saying if this recent event for you, regardless of what you thought about Charlie Kirk's point of view, if this particular event triggered for you anger around someone being killed for their point of view, then this next piece, we're going to highlight it for you, probably has to do with previous incarnation where you, perhaps, or someone close to you, someone you looked up to, maybe all the above, because again, multiple incarnations we could be pointing to here, not just one, where you were hurt or harmed, or they were hurt or harmed for having their point of view and the courage to express it, to embody it, to be in their own power in relationship to it. And so regardless of whether or not you agree with the point of view, or maybe you agree with some points of view that he had, but not all points of view that he had, recognize that that's not the significant part. The significant part that we're pointing to is the lack of safety in his ability to be able to stand in it, to express it. And that may point to, for you, where you don't feel safe to stand in your own power, to have your own voice, to express your own authentic essence, light, mission, because others might not agree with it. And then what? And in the past, inviting you, your body, your teams to scan for all those moments in the past, maybe in the future, where you experienced being hurt, harmed, shunned, ostracized, which is equivalent to being hurt or harmed, because when you were cut off by the tribe, you really couldn't survive in those days. It was really hard. For having your point of view and for having the courage to reach for standing in your power, to begin to stand in your power, to begin to express your power fully. And we're going to invite a complete debrief to be established at the end of those incarnations for you, your body, your teams, even if it's in the future, even if it's off planet for you as a soul, doing thorough and complete debriefs where you deeply ponder all the lessons with guides and advisors, beings of love and light, your future selves in fully enlightened states. You get clear on what those lessons were. You get clear on the higher perspective, activating all vibrations of the spiritual lessons, returning, retrieving fragments, power, responsibility appropriately, karma appropriately, challenges appropriately, releasing any trauma, and doing the full-on completion of the vibrational transformation that allows you, your higher self, for you, your body, your teams, their higher selves, to reinterpret your relationship with all of it to a higher octave so that there's no longer a dissonance in your fields that's on repeat. Because you've now used those moments in the past to evolve you. And we're going to hold space for that healing to complete. And then to integrate in those moments, balancing the electrical and magnetic energy once you complete that vibrational transformation, integrate it in those moments along the time spiral continuum. And then ripple and reflect that healing to you through the time spiral continuum appropriately through the appropriate developmental stages into the now and beyond. We invite a balancing and stabilizing of all your energetic fields, updating all grids, all reference points, all ways in which you perceive and are perceived. So the guides are using the words anger at injustice. So whether it was this particular occurrence this week or another occurrence this week, because there were others, or just an overall theme of injustice going on, your perception of where injustice is happening, we'd like to go ahead and address those layers with you. So if you're feeling like you're done, you can come back to this recording anytime. We're going to upload it to our channel on YouTube once we complete today. And the guides are saying one of the best ways you can support this work, and also in this case support collective empowerment, is to share this session with those you think might resonate, because this is a big one. If you're someone who has felt like you haven't been triggered by things, and maybe it's because you're in a certain part of the world where it is maybe not much happening right now, and maybe it's just because you're able to witness, observe, and the triggers aren't happening for you because they're saying you've actually done the work to heal the trauma. And I'm now seeing even a reverberation, that this is a reverberation, like a recycle of the same pattern that played out, again, in consciousness. This isn't about who's right, who's wrong, when JFK was assassinated. So very similar play out of collective rage. And then there's this layer of injustice that I'm looking at right now. So we'd like to address that specifically, just to be really thorough and to support this to be brought to a place of completion, at least within each of your fields, so that what happens then is, if it does come around again in some way, you're able to hold the stabilizing points of view, or rather lack thereof points of view, where you're just observing and you're not triggered because you've actually healed that trauma loop and any connection you had to it. So take a moment and just presence anywhere you're maybe being triggered by some injustice in current experience and maybe past experience. And we're going to invite your higher self, body's higher self, and teams to also scan for that injustice. We're also going to invite for a scan to differentiate how much of it's yours and how much of it's empathic, anger, or resistance to injustice. And we invite you at the level of your higher self, body's higher self, and teams to return all the empathic, anger, rage, frustration, resentment, maybe even fear around injustice, returning that back to its right and perfect place, along with all relevant and appropriate energetic information and the responsibility for it. Calibrating your fields to return and send information, return, send information. Anytime there's an empathic, something you're listening to, something you're sensing. You don't have to consciously know. But we do encourage you during this intense time and being shown the idea of whitewater rafting. We're in the rough waters right now, but you have your equipment, you have your helmet, you've practiced, you've trained for the class 5, is it? Rapids, and just send information. You don't have to be empathically impacted to the degree that you would if you weren't sending information. Just share the energetic information you have for everyone. We're inviting you to do this in all moments in time through the time spiral continuum where you had energetic information for those. You can send it to yourself in the past. And those moments of turbulence, those moments of upset, those moments of injustice, perceived injustice. And they're saying, it's like from the perspective of consciousness and healing and vibration. It's all about perception. So if you perceive an injustice that's going to create that special relationship with something in your energetic fields that then creates the dissonance. So it's about being willing to allow for the healing. And so returning all the empathic, inviting you, your body, and your teams to work with the energetic fields and the guides to reference all of that that's yours, that's still running in the field somewhere at some moment in time, to set up the appropriate healing chambers and debriefs, even off planet. And this they're highlighting for you, galactic souls. Any perceived injustices you witnessed, experienced, linked in with off planet, maybe in relationship to Earth, Gaia, and humanity, inviting a healing so that you're not in a resistance to, you're just in observation of what's going on. You're not, it's like, you're not in a dissonance in relationship to it. You know it's happening, you see it, but you recognize what it's actually for, which is humanity stepping into their power, the catalyst for humanity stepping into its power, or for some other world stepping into its power, evolving, shifting in some way. Recognizing that from the highest perspective, every being is an infinite being connected to an infinite source, and there is no disempowerment. It really doesn't exist in the higher realms until we start to put on the disguises of less than what we are and play certain roles for each other. Then it appears to exist because we play the role of victim, victimizer. And then injustices appear. And yes, on this level of the script, they're real. But from the higher perspective, it's like, but that's not who they really are. They're not really a victim or a victimizer. They're playing the role of it in order to garner something in evolution, in consciousness, in separation consciousness. And eventually they're going to remember who they are. And as we remember who we are, we then forgive and release all those perceived injustices because we recognize what it was for. We recognize that it was contracted prior to the launch and the incarnation. We scripted it with others for a particular purpose to garner a specific refinement of our own amplification of certain qualities as beings. And just take a moment and feel into maybe in your past challenging experiences you've had. It's like this idea of sculpting yourself, sculpting your clay, or sculpting stone, marble. You've sculpted yourself in a certain way based on what you experienced. You cultivated certain things. And that's empowering, actually, to recognize that, yes, I did all of that. And yes, I struggled. Yes, I suffered. I did those things, even in previous incarnations. Maybe if you haven't struggled in this lifetime, you have in previous incarnations, you have at some point, and recognize that, oh, maybe I was cultivating compassion for those who struggle. Maybe I was cultivating greater strength. Maybe I was cultivating greater courage. Maybe I was just getting stronger in a certain way. It's far beyond intellect or concepts. But I wasn't doing it for nothing. And neither are those who today are in those roles in their own individual lives, in their own experiences. Every single soul is fully empowered in what it scripts for itself for every single incarnation, even if it doesn't look that way on the level of the play out. But this includes you. And so even if that triggers you, we invite you at the level of your higher self, body's higher self, and teams, and even if it doesn't, to work with the energetic fields and the guides to reference all the moments where you're tangled in a perception of injustice, because that requires you to give power to the idea of a victim and a victimizer, and it makes it real. It instead of seeing people involved as the beings of love that they really are, the light they be, the infinite source aspect that they be, we've decided they are something else, and we've locked our consciousness there, aspects of our consciousness. We've gotten attached to that story being true at every sense of the word, right? It's true, yes, on the level of the script, but let's zoom out. What else is true? Oh, they are infinite beings with infinite source connection and infinite eternal life. And there is something else going on here beyond the physical realm play out, beyond the polarity play out. Both can be true. What's true at the level of the script, what's true at the level of the 3D, 4D, and what's true when we zoom out. And as you evolve and activate more of your multidimensional capacities, you're able to see both perspectives simultaneously, which then allows you to be willing to forgive. It allows you to take the hand of your higher self and say, will you reinterpret this to a higher octave for me? Because what I really want is to not be tangled in the messy, to not be tangled in the duality, to not be tangled in the right, wrong, good, or bad. I'm ready to graduate from separation consciousness and live and experience myself as the one who is connected to an infinite source, who is one with an infinite source, who is already safe, already supported, already free, already infinitely abundant. Because I know that's who I am. So what do you choose now for you? Can we support you in linking in with the you that is eternal? Seeing through the higher dimensional lens, the one who's willing to forgive and release all perceived injustices from the perspective that there's a lot more going on than what the linear mind perceives. And are you willing to release all the meaning you've given, all those moments of injustice, to allow your higher self to reinterpret your relationship with it to a higher octave and adjust your vibrational stance, even how you're identifying yourself in relationship to it? A lot of times we can be like, they're showing me like a crutch that we keep reaching for in consciousness because we're so used to it, where we think it's virtuous to be enraged around injustice. And at some point in our evolution, that's true until we reach a certain level of consciousness where we recognize that being enraged around it is probably an echo from the past that's coming up to be seen, first of all, to be healed. But it actually just empowers the very thing. So, because when we're enraged at something, we go in resistance to it. What we resist persists. So when we reach a certain level of consciousness, we recognize that's not the way out of separation consciousness. That's not the way out of the suffering. That's not the way out of, it's keeping the seesaw moving, the duality, the pendulum moving. It's empowering the duality. It's powering the very mechanism that duality functions on, which is the right and the wrong. So when we move into the willingness to forgive and release, again, we're not going to do it at this level because that's almost impossible. It's about asking our higher self to do it. I'm willing to forgive and release this. Higher self, will you help me? Will you help me see this through a higher dimensional lens? Will you help me see this through your eyes? That's what allows for the rebirth. That's what allows for the liberation. That's what allows for the healing, where we're not in a fixed perspective and a fight against the unwanted. So when we're locked in to a fight against the unwanted, we keep perpetuating the unwanted. We give it power. We empower it through our own creative energy that we're streaming on it, trying to make it go away or make it wrong. And is it from the higher perspective, the highest perspective, where it was scripted, and this person playing the victim, this person playing the perpetrator, signed up for those roles really from a place of, this is kind of hard to reach for sometimes, but I'm going to just say it because it's true, really from a place of infinite love. They sign up to play these roles for each other, so that the evolution can happen, the healing can actually happen. Eventually, we get to a place where we're awake enough, where we use the very tools we're using in this type of session today to go back in time and actually use it to evolve, to heal, to shift. And that healing that you do for you, yes, it's for you. And we're not saying to do it for others. You do it for you. But then that ripples and benefits all life. It's all connected. You healing you is of great service. We can't emphasize that enough. So we're now going to invite that healing to fully complete around all injustices. Are you willing to release all the meaning? Are you willing to forgive and release it all? Are you willing to see through a different dimensional lens? It's like releasing the right, wrong, good, bad points of view so that you can begin to see and connect to everyone involved as infinite souls in a polarity play out that are supporting the liberation of humanity and all life, and helping all life move into a higher octave of expanded existence, amplified liberation, amplified courage, amplified freedom, amplified everything. Even if it looks very dark and very painful and very suffering based. Will you also reach for the perspective where on one level that's true, but on a higher level, there is expansion happening, there is the cultivation of even more amplified divine qualities that the linear mind cannot comprehend, and that's okay. Part of me knows, my higher self knows. The divine knows. Will you trust the divine design that is source, that is creator, to use everything for good, for enhancement of the divine qualities, the divine essences of life? Like there's all these essences, right? Every divine spark has its own unique essence. And as they evolve, everything's enhanced, everything expands. That's actually what life does. It's always expanding, it's always moving to a higher octave, no matter what appears to be going on in physical dimension. So we're inviting you to link in with, inviting your higher self to link in with the divine order that is, and to heal any perceptions and any relationship you have with trusting the divine order. Are you willing to allow for healing around that? Inviting for appropriate healing chambers, thorough debriefs to complete any of those lessons, activate vibrations of spiritual lessons where you can fully heal all those moments of distrust around divine order. And I'm being shown the idea of Jesus going through a crucifixion and how so many of his followers and his disciples at that time may have been questioning God, may have been questioning divine order, may have been questioning their faith. They might have been angry at God. And so we're just inviting a healing around whatever that is. But we're also pointing to that because we're using that example to reference as one example of how when something horrific appears to happen, physical realm, boots on the ground, look at what it's actually been used for from the higher perspective, not the distorted things humanity's done with certain aspects of Christianity, with the guilt and the shame, not that part. But can you feel how life would be different? Not as expanded, not as many opportunities for evolution, if Jesus had not been crucified. That hadn't happened. Would his message, his real message of love, of forgiveness, of connection to oneness, telling us all that we are aspects of the divine in his own words, would that message have had the outreach that it has? And him being willing to play that role within that energetic template of the martyr, of all those archetypes, the tyrant, he didn't play the tyrant, but someone else did, and all the things, the betrayer and the da-da-da-da-da. would we be where we are in consciousness now? Did his mission, if you will, his script, his role in moving through that as a part of the whole, as an aspect of the divine, and he saw it that way, right? We're all brothers and sisters, right? An aspect of the divine. We're in this together. This isn't about just me. Isn't about you seeing. I'm speaking for Jesus now, and he's kind of stepped forward, so he's sharing this. It isn't about you perceiving Jesus a certain way. He's saying it's not about you perceiving me a certain way. It's not about you perceiving me as a savior, or me as benevolent, or me as righteous, or me as whatever, divine. I was being an example of what you all have the capacity to be. And yes, I was killed for it in the incarnation, because that's the pattern in consciousness that plays out. But it was orchestrated in a way that I used that for good, because I knew, right, in scripting it, that if I was killed for it, it was going to amplify my message exponentially. And yeah, some of my message got distorted and yada, yada, yada. And that happens. It's happening today all the time when we see the sound bites on social media where there's just a partial sentence of what somebody said, when if you take it out of context, it sounds very different than what they actually meant. That's happening so much. And we really encourage you to be mindful of that. But yes, it happened with Jesus's message. It still happens today with his message. And what was his real message? He's saying it was love. It was love, and it was forgiveness. And it's not the type of forgiveness where you say someone's guilty of something and want them to be held accountable. It's the type of forgiveness where you recognize from the higher perspective that there's nothing to forgive, because it was all a learning. They played a role for me. I'm actually grateful they played that role for me. He's sharing now how grateful he was for Judas playing that role. And now he's showing me all of the love that they have for each other and that they had for each other when they scripted that into the script. So just encouraging all of the release of all the judgment around any of that or any story like that, where we're holding any individual accountable in a way that they're wrong and bad when actually they were playing their role perfectly. And the guides are smiling. They're being very compassionate about this. And I'm asking, are you sure you want to say that? Because this recent events are still really raw. And they're saying, well, relate to the Jesus script for a moment. Keep your attention there and recognize that all the disciples, including Judas, including Jesus, including all of the Magdalene, they're saying Mary Magdalene and those followers, all the followers are in complete embrace of each other in this moment and have been. And there is a deep love there. And they're congratulating each other for playing their roles perfectly. And yes, they're pulling Mary Magdalene forward now. She's coming forward. For her, it was very real at the time, and she grieved. But eventually was able to use that to awaken, to evolve more. The same way you can. So now they're stepping forward as a collective, really all the Ascended Masters, to share energetic information with you, your bodies, your teams, around what this message today is really about, which is intended to be about you stepping into in greater empowerment, greater connection, greater trust with the divine design, and greater confidence that you've got this, you can do this. And right now, with this extreme polarity, intense time that we're in, you may be experiencing around current recent events in the collective or your own personal events in your life, super amplified things, challenges, So we hold compassion for that. We encourage you to activate and amplify more compassion for yourself and to use these tools like we presented today to recognize that whatever it is, it's not about what you think it's about. There's deeper things happening. So it's the same like recipe that we brought forward today. Return the empathic, then set up healing chambers in appropriate dimensions and appropriate moments in time for you to heal what it represents for you, to activate the vibrations of the spiritual lessons, to do all the energetic cleanup, and to see it through the higher lens. And it's not you doing it at this level for you. It's you inviting and asking your higher self, your body's higher self, and teams to do it where they can. To work with guides and advisors, we can help support in that. You can invoke the Council of Light anytime you want. You can invoke yourself from the future as an ascended master to help support you in that process. And so this particular transmission is an energetic template for any kind of deep wound healing that wishes to occur at any time. It could be during this current corridor of eclipse season, or it could be 10 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now. We invite a balancing and stabilizing of all your energetic fields, updating all grids, all reference points, all ways in which you perceive and are perceived. Shake out, reboot. Just going to check my notes here. So the guys are saying the one thing they do want to highlight before we complete, we did go a little bit over, but that this current moment triggers, for the most part, as far as the collective pieces, it's all about power, being in your power, being willing to move into your power. And I'm asking them how they want me to present this. So they're showing me this idea of you've tried for lifetimes to step into your power, and it's like the rug gets jerked out from under you to some degree. You were either killed, hurt, harmed for it, or something happened, and you changed your mind. Maybe someone close to you was threatened, and you didn't want to lose their love, their relationship. So you backed off. And it's all been learning, right? So what they want me to speak to now is this idea that we're on this kind of threshold, precipice of graduation from separation consciousness to unity consciousness. And this is a moment in time during this eclipse window and really through the end of October where things are very malleable. Things are very, like, as far as consciousness, energetic fields, reweaving grids, reframing how we perceive, shifting our energetic fields, moving into a new energetic stance. That can translate to starting new habits or doing like different things differently in the physical dimension. But what we would encourage is for you to focus on doing it different energetically on the back end. And then there isn't this pushing, the struggle, this efforting to change it in the physical dimension. It just shifts in the physical dimension because you shifted your vibration, your energetic stance. Your body's shifted into its vibration, its energetic stance. And what's being asked for at this time is for each of us in our own unique way, including our body devas and our teams, to move into greater empowerment, to embrace our power more. And so we're going to bring in the remembering energetically of what it feels like, how to, and that it's safe for you to embrace your power, inviting a healing for all moments in time where it didn't appear to be safe for you to embrace your power. And just getting current, referencing, and it's like the body's nervous system literally getting current. So it's not trying to reference something in the past as the present moment. It's like, no, now, in this now moment, it's safe to embrace your power. It maybe wasn't 10 lifetimes ago, but it is now. And so one way that the body devas can easily, effortlessly, without resistance, embrace their power is to invite your body deva nature spirit, because it's a nature spirit of earth, to reference a dimension that's safe, supportive, connected, where it can shapeshift into an appropriate nature spirit and or animal and or elemental form, or maybe a combination, where it embodies and is embracing its empowered self in another realm. Do it in another dimension. Don't try to effort in the physical dimension, body. Do it in another dimension where you literally embrace your etheric, empowered self in the appropriate animal form, elemental form. Maybe you're the ocean, maybe you're a mountain, maybe you're a dragon, maybe you're a combination of creatures. Maybe you are the wind, maybe you're a volcano, maybe you're fire, maybe you're a phoenix, maybe you're a Pegasus, a unicorn, a dolphin, a whale, a bear, a lion, tiger, being shown a turtle, so there's no judgment. What lifetime, body deva, did you express yourself where you were living empowered? You were the embodiment of your power, and you didn't care what anybody thought about it, and you weren't in resistance to it, and you weren't afraid to be in your power. You just were it. You were it. Maybe you were a mountain. And then take a moment and just pretend, again, that can get you there. Pretend, imagine your body, deva, being its etheric form in a dimension where it's safe, embracing its nature spirit form that is empowered. And maybe it's a dolphin in the ocean that morphs between being a dolphin and being the wave, being a dolphin, then being the wave. It's both. Let it do its thing. We're not going to project what we value onto the body. We're going to let the body deva do it its way. Because that's the only way it's going to be able to do it. It has to do it its way. If it tries to do it our way, it's not going to work. Then you as a soul can link in with the world you're from and your expression in your world. How do you embrace your power in your world? There you go. See how easy that is? Just embrace your power there. Don't worry about doing it in the physical dimension. You doing it in another dimension is all you need, because you don't, it's like you hold the stance for yourself in this other realm and it ripples to you here. It doesn't need to be about the script in the physical dimension. That will morph itself to meet you what you're choosing to be vibrationally in multiple dimensions. It doesn't have to be, it's like the etheric dimensions will reflect into the physical dimension. Let the physical realm be the reflection. Go get it in a dimension where you can. Remembering yourself as one with source. In the world you're from, it's easy because everybody there knows it. Separation consciousness isn't running in that world. It's already been graduated from. And who are you as that being? Can you remember? Bodhideva, who are you, is the one that's connected fully to the oneness fabric of earth, enlightened Gaia. No separation there. Holding space for you, your body, your teams to remember. Then balance and stabilize, ripple and reflect it to you here. Update all grids, all reference points, all ways in which you perceive and are perceived. Shake out, reboot. I'm seeing more layers that want to come through around probably the power aspect, but we may bring in an Empowered Evolution Masterclass in the near future to help continue aspects that want to unfold with this work. And it's interesting because I've noticed over the years I've been doing this, which is many years, that there's never an end, right? There's always a continuation. We can always do more. There's always more. That's what I kind of alluded to earlier. Everything always wants to expand. It wants to become its next level. It wants to grow, just like a vine growing into more and blooming more, flowers blooming. Everything always wants to bloom. And so when we hold an energetic environment that's ripe for that, it just starts to spontaneously happen. The blooming just happens. And so thank you for showing up for this particular journey together. In that, we welcome your feedback regarding today's session. And we had someone ask recently, it's like, when you do your free transmissions, is there a way to contribute if we want to do an energetic exchange? And yes, there is. If you do feel called to give an energetic exchange, on our website, there is a love donation, love offering link. And we can put that in the description below. So you can find that at embracingtheinfinite.com in the interim if you feel called to share an energetic exchange. But as I mentioned, one of the ways you can support this work in the biggest way is to share it with people you feel might resonate, to help people connect to it. And before we complete, I just want to mention, so when I was preparing to kind of start today, the guys were saying this is a really, like, they're showing me us molding our clay, and it's a really malleable time, and we can go deeper during this time. It's like we can see things in a deeper way. We can see deeper into the energetic closet. And so they're inviting you to link in with, it's like an area of your life that you would like to see and appreciate if it were improved. What would you appreciate in your life it's like, what area of my life would I appreciate being improved? That's how they worded it. And so just take a moment and feel into that. And maybe there's just a very particular relationship or situation, or maybe there's multiple things, but take a moment just to ponder that. And you can place it up for review to your guides and advisors and say, during this malleable time, can we work on this in a higher realm? Can we work on bringing this into a more harmonic vibration, my relationship with it to a more harmonic vibration? And whatever this represents for me, I'm willing to forgive and release. I'm willing to activate the vibrations of the spiritual lessons, and I'm after, and or return, dissolve, evolve, whatever's ready to. And we're going to be gathering at this time. We're going to be journeying in a series called Creating as One with Source. And there's multiple highlights for that series. One of them is to support each one that journeys with us to reinvent, improve a certain area of life or a particular aspect of life. And so there's a coaching element to this journey, but we're going to be alternating weeks where we do a transmission only, and then we do an interactive session. And it's a 6-week series. We do have a $270 savings for that series that was set to expire today, but the guides are saying because we decided to do this free transmission, they're going to extend that one more day. So that coupon code for that $270 savings is called Thrive25. And you can feel into whether it would honor you at this time when we are in this kind of sacred passage of increased malleability. Would it be helpful for you? Would it be honoring for you to reinvent a particular area of life? Or maybe it's relationship with self or relationship with source. And ultimately, the big highlight of the Creating as One with Source series, one of the big highlights, they're saying, there's going to be a lot presented. They're showing me that we have never presented before. A lot of new things coming through, but they're showing me this idea of graduating from separation consciousness to unity consciousness. That's a big highlight. That's one of the main intentions. And then the other piece that I'm being shown is remembering who we are as the one galactically that came to Earth to be in this up level with Earth, to help support it, to also benefit from it, but then also be of service. But remember who we are on the other side as the galactic being. Who are we as that? What capacities do we have as that version of ourselves? And to help us awaken to it here, bring it in here, because each of you have your own way of creating for yourselves in your world that functions from oneness. You already know how to do it. So this series, aspects of this series are going to be supporting you to bring in what you know. And this isn't your typical how to manifest series. It's not like those books, like the guides show me the idea of Think and Grow Rich. Not that there's anything wrong with that book. It's not that. This isn't how to manifest in separation consciousness 101. This is next level. Who are you as the one who knows who you are on all levels and is running all the grids, all the back end wiring for the one who is one with an infinite source? That's the highlight. Things that you've been working lifetimes to move into, and you get to do it embodied at this time because the galactic embrace is underway, well underway. Gaia breached the waters. She is fully in the galactic embrace. It's happening. So this is the perfect timing. They're showing me this ray of light coming in, like a pinpoint of light, like a perfect timing corridor for this type of work for so many reasons. They're showing me because of how the cycles are overlapping, things are completing, new things are being birthed. So if it resonates to journey with us for that series, I'm excited about it. It does feel like something brand new to me. This isn't going to be the other ways of creating and manifesting that we've presented in the past. It's very different. And so we are also offering through the end of the day tomorrow, for those who want to enroll, the 2 payment option. So reach out to us if that resonates and you want to do that, and we can set that up for you. And the only other thing I want to mention is that you might save the date, because we will be doing a 10/10 Stargate transmission on 10/10, October 10th, which is a Friday. So save the date, probably early evening in Central Time, US. We'll be doing that. I would say late afternoon, depending on your perspective. Probably late afternoon is a better way to say that. And so feel free to share any questions, intentions, reflections about today's transmission. And we want to just take a moment, again, presence this idea that each of you are ancient, highly evolved. You have been there, done that for many, 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 many lifetimes. We acknowledge that. We acknowledge your courage. We acknowledge your strength. We acknowledge your tenacity. We acknowledge that each of you has already mastered your own ways of being in separation consciousness that get you through the day. And that's taken a lot. That's taken a lot. And what used to work for you in the past may no longer work for you because you've shifted, you've evolved. And it may be time for you to bring in mechanisms and ways of being and ways of manifesting that actually meet you in who you've become. And so we encourage you to use this corridor in whatever way you choose, as it's like an intentional way, even if it's just setting a specific intention and holding it up to the higher realms, an intentional way for you to adjust your sails in a particular direction, recognizing that you get to choose for you. And yes, it's in collaboration with your higher self. But a lot of times what I see is the higher self is waiting for the choice to be made so that it knows what's being asked for, so that it can collaborate. So encouraging each of you to really hold the reins, hold that wheel of the ship, recognizing that, yes, you do have power and it is in your choice, your free will conscious choice. What direction do you wish to go? What do you wish to reinvent? What do you wish to move into a higher octave expression for you? And maybe it's something you want more clarity around. This is the time for that. So much love to each of you. Again, acknowledging you have all the badges, you have all the medals, right? You're well seasoned evolvers, you're well seasoned beings, and just encouraging you to navigate this time in the most empowering way for you. And we want to share our gratitude to each of you and thank you for showing up. Much love.